It was a Thursday morning, clear skies but heavy hearts. Commuters rushed downtown like clockwork. People in suits, people in power, people who belonged. And then there was Maya, 28 years old, natural curls pulled back in a simple bun, no makeup, no designer bag, just a pressed navy blouse slacks and a manila folder with her resume 5 pages long, Harvard honors, multiple internships, glowing letters of recommendation. But all they would see was a black woman in flats. Maya stood outside the glass building of Lefford Pierce Talent Solutions, one of the most prestigious recruiting firms in the state. Her hands trembled slightly, not from nerves, but from experience, because Maya had been here before, not this building, but this moment, this feeling. She took a breath and walked through the rotating doors. The lobby was all marble and chrome, cold, pristine, performative. A white receptionist with a tight ponytail glanced up from her desk, then looked back down. No greeting, no warmth, just silence. Maya walked up politely. "Hi, good morning. I'm here for the 10:30 interview with the talent acquisition team. The name's Maya Ellis." The receptionist didn't look up. Name again, Maya Ellis. Ellis. Pause. Typing. Frown. There's no one by that name scheduled at 10:30. Maya's face twitched. I have the confirmation email right here if you need. No need. If your name's not on the list, there's no interview. Sorry. Before Maya could respond, a voice cut through the lobby. Do we have a problem here? It was him, Preston Garrick, mid-40s, tall pressed Armani suit polished arrogance, vice director of operations, and the last person Maya wanted to deal with. The receptionist perked up. She says she has an interview, but she's not on the list. Preston looked Maya up and down. Not a glance, a judgment. He scoffed. We don't do walk-ins. Maya took a step forward. I'm not a walk-in, sir. I was invited by Mr. Benjamin Reese, your hiring manager. I have the email, I don't care what you have, Preston snapped. This firm has standards. You clearly don't meet them. The words hit harder than they should have. Not because they were new, but because they were expected. Sir, I came here because I was told my application was shortlisted. I just want a fair... This isn't a government charity, sweetheart. You want fair? Go find a cause. This is a business, a professional one. Maya stood frozen. She glanced around the lobby. People heard, but no one moved. A security guard looked away. A white woman near the elevator snickered softly and turned her back. Preston leaned in. Let me make it easy. There's no interview. And there never will be. He didn't whisper. He wanted her to feel it. But Maya didn't flinch. Not this time. She met his eyes. Calm. Still. Thank you for clarifying, she said softly. I appreciate the transparency. Preston smirked. Sure thing. Try Target. They're always hiring. Maya turned, walked out the door. No tears, no scene. But as she stepped back into the sunlight, a small smile flickered across her lips. Because what Preston didn't know, what none of them knew, was that this whole thing was a setup, a test, and she was the one holding the pen. Maya didn't go home that day. She didn't cry. She didn't rant. She didn't even call a friend to vent. She just kept walking through the city. Her heels clicked softly against the pavement, but her mind was roaring, because every part of her wanted to scream, to barge back into that office and remind them exactly who she was. But power, true power, doesn't rush. Maya had learned that lesson a long time ago. At 28, she was the youngest director of diversity and hiring strategy ever appointed at North Shore HR Group, a parent company overseeing several recruiting firms, including Lefford Pierce. Her job: oversee reform, audit practices, identify patterns of bias, recommend terminations. What Preston didn't know was that his team had been under review for 3 months, and Maya, she, was the lead. 3 weeks earlier, Maya had received multiple internal reports, anonymous complaints about discriminatory hiring at Lefford Pierce. Names were redacted, but one kept surfacing in code VPG. She dug, quietly, and the data spoke for itself. Black applicants with Ivy League degrees were being ghosted. Resumes with ethnic-sounding names received no callbacks. Latina and Asian candidates were invited but rarely hired. So Maya crafted a plan. She submitted her own resume under her real name with a pared-down design. No mention of North Shore, no job title, just her background, her skills, her merit. 2 weeks later, she received a polite email from a recruiter. We're excited to invite you to speak with our team for a possible analyst opening. They never knew who she was. And now, they'd made their choice. The next morning, Maya entered the North Shore headquarters, a sleek glass tower 3 blocks from Lefford Pierce. Her executive badge unlocked the elevator without a sound. She stepped into the 27th floor conference room, where 4 department heads waited, including Benjamin Reese, the senior hiring manager at Lefford Pierce. He looked visibly shaken. I just got off the phone with Preston Garrick, he muttered. He says a walk-in caused a scene yesterday and claimed she had an interview. She didn't cause a scene, Maya interrupted calmly. She was turned away. Benjamin blinked. You were there. Maya opened her laptop, pulled up the security feed. There it was, clear as day. Preston's voice, his smirk, the way he waved her off like she was dust. No, I didn't cause a scene, Maya said, still cool. But I was present, in every sense of the word. The room went silent. She paused. Let the weight sink in. I want to know why someone on your team flagged my resume for interview, then deleted it from the list. Benjamin wiped his palms. We didn't delete anything. I assigned your name to Preston for pre-screening. He never forwarded it back. Maya leaned back. So he intercepted it. Benjamin nodded. Looks that way. But why would he? You know why. Everyone in the room knew. No one said it. Because when discrimination is baked into the system, it doesn't need to scream. It whispers, it withholds, it forgets. That evening, Preston sat comfortably at his favorite bar-top floor of a swanky rooftop lounge, drink in hand. He was laughing, loud, repeating the story for the 3rd time. I kid you not, man, she said she had an interview. Showed up like she was applying for a cashier gig or something. His coworker chuckled. No way. I told her straight. Target's hiring. That's what she needed to hear. They clinked glasses. Across the bar, a woman in a black coat observed quietly, her face hidden in the shadows. Maya didn't approach. Not yet. But she heard every word. Back at North Shore, Maya prepared her report. She wasn't just going to expose Preston. She was going to change the culture. She compiled internal hiring data, showing racial disparities in callback rates, audio clips from whistleblower interviews, screenshots of staff emails mocking diversity hires, and at the center of it all, Preston Garrick. She included her personal testimony detailing her experience during the undercover interview. It wasn't rage-filled, it was surgical, precise, devastating. Then she submitted it directly to the CEO. The next morning, Maya received an email from corporate leadership. Subject line, urgent executive review requested. Today. She smiled. Preston walked into the Lefford Pierce office, still smug, still untouchable. But the air felt different. People whispered. Eyes followed him. Then the call came. Preston, the board is requesting you upstairs. Now. Now, he scoffed. For what they didn't say. He stepped into the elevator. Unbothered. He was used to sitting in on board reviews. Used to dismissing complaints. But when the doors opened, he saw her. Maya Ellis. Hair down. Black blazer. Badge clipped to her tailored lapel. Seated at the head of the boardroom. She didn't even look up. Preston Garrick, a voice said from across the table. We've reviewed your conduct. Please take a seat. This will not be a conversation. It will be a hearing. The boardroom air was thick. Still. Everyone could feel the weight of what was coming, even if only one person still didn't know he was the target. Preston Garrick walked in with a smirk. But that smirk faltered when he saw who was sitting at the head of the table. Maya didn't speak right away. She let him squirm. She didn't need to raise her voice. The silence was louder than rage. Preston glanced at the others around the room, executives, advisors, compliance officers, even the company's lead attorney, and every eye was trained on her. He looked back to Maya, his voice trying to mask confusion with authority. What's going on? Why are you in my seat? She stood slowly, calm, composed, in control. You're mistaken, Mr. Garrick. This isn't your seat. She pulled a file from the center of the table and opened it deliberately. My name is Maya Ellis, Director of Diversity and Strategic Recruitment for North Shore HR Group. For the past 90 days, I've led an internal investigation into discriminatory hiring practices within your firm. As part of that investigation, I applied for an entry-level role at Lefford Pierce under my own name using my real credentials. Preston blinked. Wait, what? I submitted my resume. Your team selected it. You canceled the interview. He stammered. No one told me who you were. That's the point, Maya cut him off, voice firm. You judged me without context, without merit, without care. You made assumptions based solely on my appearance, and worse, you mocked me for it. Preston looked to Benjamin, who sat to the side, stone-faced. Ben, what is this? You didn't say this was an ambush, Benjamin replied quietly. It's not an ambush. It's an audit. Maya turned on the projection screen behind her. A spreadsheet appeared, rows and rows of data. This, she said, is 3 years of application data from your branch. She highlighted one row. White male applicants with identical qualifications were moved to final rounds at a rate of 72%. She clicked again. Black female applicants just 6%. Even when holding Ivy League degrees, the callback rate barely touched 10%. She let the numbers hang in the room. No one's saying you're the only problem, Preston, but you are the loudest. Then she clicked once more. An email thread appeared. A message from Preston. This one looks like trouble. Another DEI stunt. Pass. He had been replying to a recruiter who flagged a qualified Latina candidate. Preston's face turned red. That was taken out of context. Maya held up her hand. Don't waste time spinning. We've heard enough. The CEO of North Shore leaned forward. He was rarely involved in disciplinary hearings, but this time he made an exception. Mr. Garrick, he said slowly, it's clear your conduct has compromised our firm's integrity, exposed us to liability, and violated our DEI compliance mandates. Effective immediately, you are being placed on administrative leave pending termination review. Preston shot up. You can't do this to me. I've been with this company for 12 years. And in 12 years, Maya replied coldly, you've left a trail of exclusion, discrimination, and broken trust. That ends today. He turned to the others in desperation. You're really going to let this happen? Over one woman with a chip on her shoulder, Maya's expression didn't change. This isn't about a chip. It's about a pattern. And that pattern has a cost. As security entered the boardroom to escort Preston out, the moment turned cinematic. He tried to hold on to his ego. This is a mistake. You'll regret this. I've brought in millions. But Maya stood tall. You brought in money. But you cost us humanity. Preston was silent now, that final echo of authority gone. As the door closed behind him, the room remained still. Then Benjamin stood. He walked over to Maya and held out his hand. I'm sorry. For my silence. For missing what was right in front of me. Maya shook his hand. We all miss things. The question is, what do we do once we see them? In the following days, Maya's name circulated through the corporate world like wildfire. Not for revenge, not for scandal, but for courage. Her story went viral on LinkedIn. An anonymous intern posted a thread about how she once saw Maya in the elevator and thought she was a temp, only to realize later who she really was. The final tweet read, "Never judge power by appearance." Maya Ellis walked in silent and walked out stronger than anyone in that room. But for Maya, it wasn't about virality. It was about vindication. For every qualified black woman who was told she was not the right fit, for every immigrant who changed their name on a resume to sound safer, for every quiet genius turned away at the door because they didn't look the part. She didn't just make an example out of Preston. She made a blueprint for others. The press didn't catch the story right away. There were no flashing cameras when Preston Garrick was escorted out of the building. No viral headlines when Maya Ellis stood in that boardroom calm and composed, executing justice without rage. But some stories don't need to go viral to leave a mark. They just need to change something real. And that's exactly what Maya did. The aftermath unfolded quietly, but with weight. Preston's resignation letter was finalized just 3 days after the board meeting. He tried to negotiate severance. The firm denied it. The company released a short internal memo. Effective immediately, VP Preston Garrick has resigned. We remain committed to inclusive hiring and are undertaking a full review of internal practices. But Maya's report didn't stop at Preston. She included recommendations that reshaped the company from the inside out, a new blind resume policy, DEI training tied directly to executive performance reviews, an anonymous reporting tool for discrimination accessible at every level. And perhaps most importantly, she made it mandatory that every hiring team include at least one voice who looked like her, not for tokenism, for balance, for truth. 2 weeks later, Maya received a handwritten card slid under her office door. It read, "I almost walked away. Thank you for staying. Because you stayed, I will too. A future applicant who looks like you." There was no name. There didn't need to be. Maya stood at the back of the auditorium watching as a room full of young interns, black, white, brown, male, female, trans immigrant, gathered for their first official DEI orientation. She had been asked to speak, but she didn't stand at a podium. She sat among them. When they called her name, she rose not as an executive, not as a headline, but as a woman who had walked through the fire and chose not to burn, but to build. Her voice was low, steady. I know what it feels like to walk into a room and feel the air shift against you, to know that people have already decided who you are before you speak. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. But I also know what happens when you stop trying to prove yourself and start positioning yourself. She looked out at their eyes, wide, hopeful, uncertain, because eventually they don't just see you, they feel you, and if you do it right, they remember you. A young black girl in the front row raised her hand, her voice soft. What did it feel like? When they realized who you were, Maya didn't hesitate. It felt like freedom, but not the kind that comes from revenge, the kind that comes from knowing you didn't have to become ugly just because the world treated you like you were invisible. There was a pause, then thunderous applause, but Maya didn't smile for herself. She smiled for what came next. 6 months passed. Maya sat in a quiet coffee shop one afternoon when a familiar voice approached. Miss Ellis. She turned. It was the receptionist from the day of the interview. Ponytail, same rigid posture but a softer expression. Maya nodded. Yes, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I didn't know who you were that day. Maya sipped her tea. You weren't supposed to. The woman fumbled. Still, I treated you like you didn't matter, and I've thought about that every day since. Maya studied her face not with bitterness, but clarity. You don't need to apologize for not knowing, she said, but you should think about why you didn't ask. The woman looked down. Maya stood to leave, placing her cup gently in the bin. Before she walked out, she turned back. Respect isn't about rank, it's about recognition. You don't wait for a name tag to act human. 1 year later, Lefford Pierce had become one of the fastest rising firms in inclusive hiring reform. Their reputation transformed, not because of PR, because of practice. They featured Maya in a national campaign titled Judge No One, Expect Everyone. But Maya didn't need the spotlight. She just needed the next door to stay open for someone else. And the twist, Maya still reviews resumes from time to time, but now she doesn't use her real name. She uses an alias, not to trick anyone, but to remind herself that if you have to hide your power to see the truth, then maybe that's the only way to rebuild the system, from within. Never assume the quiet one has nothing to say. Never judge someone by the chair they sit in, because one day they may be the one deciding who stays in the room. In a world quick to overlook, be the story they never forget.